This time around, we're looking at digital skills for life as we talk about International Girls in ICT Day. Yes, women who are techie. You don't find them easily, but when you do, you have to celebrate them. And we have in the studio with us someone who is an identity, confidence, and feminine leadership coach, a product designer, and women's empowerment advocate, Imelda Alumonah. Good morning. Welcome to Early Exchange.
Good morning. Morning.
Glad you have you join us. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Glad to be here too.
All right. On a day like this, where the world focuses on girls in ICT, if you have 10 people who are techie or who are in ICT, you probably have most of them men, but less of them female. But it seems like more females are looking in that direction. What can you say about the revolution that has happened in the tech space in terms of gender?
Okay, so that's a very good question, and I think that they've been really that gender inequality, and then there's a gender gap in the tech space, in a couple of other industries, but very prominent in the tech space. And I think one of the reasons is because there was, at a point, there was not a lot of advocacy as regarding to women, especially young girls coming into tech space. And some of the things that contributed to that is religion, socio-economical things, and also just cultural. And I want to applaud some organizations who I know are really doing a lot of work with advocacy and getting a lot of girls now into tech and getting them to see that, tech is doable, and you can do this too, and just helping them to, because tech is also an equalizer, it opens up opportunities for people, especially people in Africa. So I want to applaud the organizations and the government that have funded the girl child going in the tech space. But I also want to talk about it from a little bit of the psychological path, because the truth is that there's been a lot of conditioning, mental conditioning when it comes to women or the girl child. So I've worked with women for 8 years, getting women empowerment and just really helping women to unlock their potential. I think one of the things I have seen very strongly, and I think, just to add, strengthen organizations that really want to work on this, empowering more women to get into tech should start to look at this area, is there's this thing of women and imposter syndrome, and its statistics have shown that women are less likely to take risks, to move forward, to take opportunities when they come, as opposed to men. So I know that there is a gender gap, and I understand that somehow there have been some barriers that have been contributed to women not getting into tech, but I also want to now put a little bit of the burden on the women themselves, and also encourage organizations to encourage women to step out. So there's this lack of confidence, there's this imposter syndrome, and I think it's because culturally women have been raised to want to be liked, while men have been raised to want to be respected. So a woman wants to be liked, the way you are raised from being a young girl, they tell you everything is, behave yourself, you're a woman, or they try to box you into a certain kind of construct that most men did not have growing up. So just growing up in that kind of era, it does something to your mind. So most women are very likely to shrink back. If we even look at leadership roles, even in the tech space, we don't have a lot of role modeling in tech. We don't have a lot of people who are sitting on the table and making the decisions and bringing the disruptive innovation, because why? Women are less likely to rally for votes and rally for, those kind of things because of this imposter syndrome thing.
I would like to start with your own story, because I would like to know what inspired your interest in tech business. You found yourself in a terrain where you have more men. Okay. So what has been the experience? Let's learn from your story.
Okay, so personally for me, I have a medical background, and so I saw tech as not necessarily like I wanted to just pivot in tech. I saw tech as an enabler. I saw tech as, a tool that I can use to really, open up innovation in the medtech space. So I looked at the industry, the healthcare industry in Nigeria and in Africa, and I was able to say from my own experience and having the best of both worlds, like I schooled abroad and I came back to Nigeria, and I'm saying how can technology be leveraged in this way to get some things to be done in a way that it helps the life of the common man easier. So for me, what really pushed me really to go into tech was the part of, I really wanted to be able to leverage technology for good. And that was really that was my first, you know, okay, let me really go learn this thing, because this thing is a tool that can really, really help you to innovate. So yeah, and the world is changing, and you also want to be on the top of, you know, innovation, and, you know, as the world keeps evolving, you don't want to be static or just a particular space. So that was one of the things that really pushed me to say, okay, I really want to, you know, get into tech.
When you started, was there any form of bias or perception that were not right, and how were you able to overcome that? You know, let's pay the peculiarity of women, you know, who are in the tech space in Africa, and the peculiarity of some of their challenges. So how were you able to overcome that kind of barrier, if there were any?
So personally, I would say I was a little bit privileged. Like I said, I schooled abroad. So the general things that most people will have, like you're getting into tech, you don't have a laptop, you don't have access to internet and all of that. I did not really have all those certain kind of barriers, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't really exist. So, and I mean, I talk to people, I coach women, and I know that one of the very big barriers to entering into tech, especially in Africa here, is that economic part of it, where you need a laptop to do technology, you need a good phone, you need, you know, internet access, and not everybody can, you know, be able to access those things. And so that's one of the barriers. I don't think it's necessarily just a woman barrier thing, but that was one of the barriers. Also, another thing would be that some people come from places where women are just told that at a certain age, you're supposed to just go get married and bring the family out of financial poverty. That wasn't really my experience, but I know there are people who have, you know, had these things. But I've also experienced some things in the case where, when it comes to really hiring bias, I think that's where I've faced some little bit of discrimination, where people just feel like, especially if you are in software development, it's very subtle, but it's actually there. People just feel like, you're a woman, you know. They believe that men, because tech can be brutal, and that's just the truth about it, but it's very doable. So they believe that it's a hard industry, in the sense that it can take a toll on you, especially if you're learning to code and all of that. And I just believe that men are more situated to that kind of thing than women. Also, there are companies that look at things like, if I take her in, and then she gets married or starts to have children, you know, we start now looking for another kind of time. And also, tech is not just the, you know, job and everything. There's also the part of founders in tech. There's also the part of, you know, founders, and women face that bias with getting funding. Black men specifically face that bias in getting funding, because the people who write your checks are men, and they don't look like you. And sometimes you may be bringing an innovation that is tailored to women. That's why I say more women should get into tech, because sometimes there are products that just women, you know, innovations like menstrual products and apps, and sometimes men just do not understand what you're talking about. And so because they don't understand, it doesn't mean it's not innovative, but you get kicked out because they don't understand what you're saying. So those are some of the things I know I've heard and personally experienced when it comes to, you know, the bias in technology.
All right, the thing for this year's International Girls Day for Girls in ICT is leadership, and it's emphasizes the role of girls in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But we find that over the years, more women have never really been interested in this area. True. You talked about why you had to go to tech, even having a medical background. But from the beginning, from school, primary school, secondary school particularly, what do you think is part of the reason why more girls do not take to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? Even for lecturing, you find few women in that aspect.
Okay. So I want to really, there are a lot of reasons, but I want to come from the angle of what you said, leadership. And, you know, because leadership is one of the things that I'm very passionate about. I think one of the reasons is because there are not a lot of role modeling in the tech space. So we don't have, and that's why we need representation in tech. And that's why we are trying to encourage more women, not just to get into tech, because that's one thing, but to be high flyers in tech, to take up leadership roles. And the thing is, people think leadership is, positional, but leadership is really just influence. So it means if I can influence one person, I can mentor one person, you are leading. So people need to be able to see leadership from where they are at. And I think one of the reasons, since we're talking about leadership, is because there are not a lot of role models. People don't see women that look like them who are doing technology and doing disruptive things. Most times, like I said, women want to be liked. Not all women, but so we can be tailored towards what we see, what is modeled to us, what is in front of us. I don't even think it's just a women thing. I think it's just generally, it's what is in front of us. And, you know, and people even need to see that sometimes you can even do what you want to do, but you can leverage technology as something to add to what you're doing. So technology doesn't necessarily mean I just have to be a software developer or be a product designer. It could be I can still go into maybe the fashion industry, but I can do fashion tech. I can use tech as, I collaborate with tech to push my fashion items and make it disruptive innovation and things like that. So I think really at the point we are talking about now is because I believe there are not enough women, like role models for women leaders in the technological space that a lot of younger girls can see and say, I want to be like that. So in some spaces like this, you see people and say, I want to be like this person. Sometimes you go to secondary schools and you talk to young girls, what do you want to be? I want to be a doctor, I want to be this, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a teacher. Why? Because my mommy is this, my dad is a doctor, because I had an uncle that was a doctor, I had a friend that was a teacher, I had this person that was this. So most times it's because people, young girls particularly, don't have that role model and they don't have those people to look up to. And it can also look like even schools exposing the mind of young people to even international role models. They don't have to be mentors that you physically have access to. It's reading our history books and saying, okay, who was the first programmer? Who was the first woman to do these things? And just really infusing and pumping that confidence in them that, see, you can do this thing too. You're also a woman like them. So yeah, I think partly would be, one of the major parts would be that role of, role models in the technological space.
All right. When you talk about it, tech space or tech business, it's not about gender. It's all about capacity and ability, which women are also, they've also shown they have the capacity. But when you look at the level of participation, which is why we're having this kind of conversation, there's a gap. What kind of government intervention do you think will also help, to cover up for this gap and attract more women into the tech business?
Okay, so like I said, I believe that there are two C's, and I believe that there is competence and there is confidence, like I said. And I believe that we are doing a lot with raising competent women. I don't think we have less competent women. I dare say that most women are more competent than their male counterparts. Now, what is the gap? Why is the reason that we have more males in this space and we have less females in this space, even though some of these women are more competent? And I think it's really because of the confidence, which I started at in the beginning. And I think that organizations should really try to push women out of that psychological part to be more risk, take more risks. I think it's because women are more inclined not to just push themselves, come out there, and if women can just, put whatever, it's because it's mental, whatever mental barriers aside them. So for example, statistics shows that a man is more likely to ask for a pay raise compared to a woman. And I know there are organizations who are being more, coming out of the whole gender and pay gap and all of that. But sometimes you have to ask for what you want. So sometimes you see that a man is more likely to ask for, a pay raise than a woman that they do the same role. So because why? I spoke about the economic and the cultural and the way that both people were raised. The man has responsibilities. Most times the woman has to be taught to negotiate. And we also know that most women, not all, most women are not effective negotiators. So I think it's also that part of really strengthening soft skills, not just also focusing on the hard skills. They also need to help women with soft skills, communication, effective communication, knowing how to pitch themselves, knowing how to be assertive but not aggressive, knowing how to, being able to balance the both sides so that even when they are competent, they also now have this confidence to go for what they want and put themselves out there. So I think that would do a lot of good to really close that gap. When we start having trainings for, really helping women to not just only know themselves, but know how to ask for what they know that they are worth and what they deserve. Yeah.
On a day like this, you find the internet afloat with different hashtags, girls can code and things like that.
True.
And for girls who think that they are not techie or cannot be techie, it sort of seems intimidating.
True.
Now, are there digital skills that's women-friendly for beginners to bring them in that they can begin to look at on a day like this?
Okay. So the thing is, I think when people talk about tech, they just look at coding and they just say tech coding.
Okay.
But this smartphone in your hand is tech, text messaging is tech. And so sometimes because we can be in an urban city, we tend to forget that they are parts of Lagos and they are part of Nigeria where people can't even be able to send an email and all of that. So I think it's, when we talk about digital skills, it's first of all being able to use the internet safely, share content on the internet and all of that. And of course, well, I would not personally say that there are some spaces in tech that are more women friendly. I think that that's a little bit, you know, I think women can do any part of tech. I personally am of the opinion that all women should learn to code. I think it's a very great skill to have, and it's not really that hard like people think it's hard. It's more mental. Once you can, I want to learn to code, I can learn to do this. But as well, there are other parts of technology that are not coding. It doesn't have the product design, there's not software development, there are other things, you know, the cybersecurity and ethical hacking, there is AWS architect, cloud engineering, DevOps, there are a lot. Tech is an opening field. So there are still some parts of technology that are still expanding, they are still opening. Now we have the talk about AI, and you know, now AI is coming up, and then we have fields that are opening up in AI. We have AI engineering and all of those kind of things. So I feel like women should be given the opportunity to explore the tech field and see what part of technology works for them. So if you give that level playing ground where you allow especially young girls who are literally at that point, they're still like sponges. They're still easy to like, and give them because most times young girls are very curious. Give them the opportunity to explore technology, and in technology they can find the path that suits them based on their strengths, based on their, you know, what they really want to do. Instead of just saying, oh, this part is easier, this part is the one that is for females. Let them explore and come to the point where they say, oh, I really want to do this, or I don't want to code, which is okay, or I think I really like coding, which is fine. So yeah, I think that's, you know, what I would say.
All right, let's talk about the business side of it now.
Okay.
We're talking about women, you know, the tech space,
okay,
vast opportunities. Talk about the opportunities, those niche, those areas where you feel people can make money. And now that you have more of AI now, artificial intelligence, how much of game changing that is bringing to the tech space?
Okay, so you're talking, do you want me to talk about it like the business side or talk
Yes.
about the opportunities in technology?
Both.
Okay, usually championing for more female founders. I'm a future, you know, I want to start a female company, and the truth about this is, like we said, more women don't want to come into business, especially in the tech space, because it can be brutal. But the thing is, when we don't encourage more women to come into business, especially in tech space, we rob the economy of diversity, of innovation, because statistics actually show that, you know, when you bring diversity on the table, you have more creativity, you have more innovation, and also you have more people that can understand. You need empathy in building products, digital products. So let's say I'm building a product for a female like demographic, and you have male on the board. Like, I mean, if you're a man, I understand you're smart, but you may not be able to feel it the way that a female is going to feel it. Even if you have a more diverse crowd, most of the people who are going to be using that product are females. So you need to have women on the board so that they can say, I understand how these people will think. So I think, you know, that opportunity, and then the opportunities in technology, obviously, there are a lot of opportunities in technology to study the economic, for more economic, you know, empowerment for women, for more economic part of, you know, for women. Also, before I go into that, I want to talk about just honing into the business part of it and all of that. We are not encouraging more females to innovate and found their own companies, and there are a couple of reasons why. You know, it's almost like there's a gatekeeping thing in that space, in the founders' place, where we're not encouraging a lot of women. In fact, the numbers, if you look at the statistics, numbers of women-led companies are significantly lower. But there are opportunities to make money in technology, and that's very true. If there are a lot of skills you can get in technology, there is digital marketing, there is e-commerce. There are a lot of opportunities in technology to make money for females, but now we have to encourage them to get into it and step into that area here.
She was talking about the gates, the business gate for women in tech, having a gatekeeper. Let's look at some of those barriers. Could it be stereotype? Could it be lack of collaboration among the women folks in tech?
Okay, so I wouldn't say it's lack of collaboration. So one of it would be lack of, you know, information. Most times, most women, not say most, some women don't have access to information. That's one. Also, it would be lack of mentorship as well, because, you know, business can be tough, and sometimes, you know, women don't have that mentorship, like some people will rally around and say, okay, let's that men thing. So that also would be the lack of mentorship in the business space in tech. Also, it will be lack of funding, and this would be this is a very broad one. It's lack of funding, and I mentioned lack of funding for a lot of reasons. First of all, the people who write your checks don't look like you, and so we also need to get more women to sit at the decision-making tables where they are writing the checks for these people. And because the people who write your checks don't look like you, there can be some subtle bias when your investors are trying to write you a check. And sometimes the investors don't know it's there, like it's just subconscious, but there can be some bias there. Maybe they feel like, which is the most common one I've heard, is that they feel like if they give you this money, and maybe you're getting married, just got married, what happens if you have a child? What happens if you get pregnant? What happens if and so if that happens, because they're investors, they want to make money, that's why they're giving you money. If you get pregnant or something, how do you continue to push this business thing? So most times, because they are driven by, most of them is the money, is the investment, they're thinking about it and saying, I don't think this is a very high ROI to give a woman money, which is not necessarily true. So they have all of those things too. And some people even say things like, women are very moody, mood swings and emotions. You can just decide, I don't want to do this again. So they have those biases, and they don't, most of the time, it's because we don't have people who look like us who are on the table. So I believe that if we have more women in leadership, we have more women who sit at the table, who, write the checks, we would also have more women who are encouraged to come into business, especially in the tech space. Yeah.
All right, interesting. We hope this bias will be something of the past, and that's why we're having this kind of advocacy. But let's get back to you. Okay. You've been in position to train women in the tech business. I want to know from your own example, your own experience, what aspect of tech or in the tech space, what kind of niche do you think women are taking interest in? Okay. And what is informing this kind of interest? And what is the level of success in that aspect?
Okay, so women are usually going towards no-code route in technology, and it's because it's not code. And I think it's because there is a bias, which I think is mental, that coding is hard. Coding is hard, and so because people believe that coding is hard, because you've not tried to code, you just heard it's hard because you heard it's hard. Even when you try to do it, it makes it hard for you because you already have a subconscious conditioning around that. Also because coding is long. If you want to learn to code, to become like a really good software developer or whatever, you need a much more lengthy time compared to when you do no-code route. And most times when women are coming into technology, they're not really coming, not all of them, a good number of women, it's not really because of, I want to innovate, I want to, that's why I said the conversations around getting women to tech should be a lot different. It should be, yes, we are getting you into technology for economic empowerment, but it should also be inspiring them to say, you have something to give to the world, you can use technology for good. You're coming in for economic empowerment because you're trying to make money. And there's the simple route to make money. Like I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, so it's going to take me about 6 to 12 months or even 2 years to become a very strong software developer. I have to code, I have to give, and I'm like, I don't think I really want to do that, but I can do a no-code route that maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, get an internship, start earning money and all of that. So most times it's because when people are telling women to come to technology, they are driving it strongly from the point of money. Money, which is not a bad thing, but most of the time it's really money, money, money. And it's okay to say money, but also I believe that we should also encourage women to, especially women of this Africa, to bring in their innovation, to, kind of like contribute their own quota to the innovation in the world globally and all of that. So I think, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I believe that women are tailoring to some certain kind of, digital skills.
All right, let's look at how easy it is for women to get into tech or even to some aspect of it, maybe coding. For the young girls in school, yes, they're in school, it might be easy. What about women who are out of school? Is there like an age restriction for it?
Okay. Like I said initially, the good thing about technology is an equalizer. The tech space is an equalizer, and it's been a very friendly space to literally everybody. So the thing is, you don't even need to have a university degree to get into technology. You can be a student and be a tech person. You can, drop out of school and do technology. Like, you don't necessarily have to, you can, maybe you're going through maybe whatever, maybe you can't pay fees on anything, and you can do technology. So it's not, you don't necessarily need a BSc, need any certain kind of thing. As long as you have a high school degree, or you know how to, you have digital, general basic digital skills. Technology, it's an open, industry for anybody to tap into.
All right, thank you very much. Before we wrap up, I want to give you the chance to just flaunt it, put it out there. Yes, I'm a lady, I can code. So tell us, you were talking about women wanting to be liked. Yeah, so for techie women, are they more likely to be liked because they can code and do so many things that some other people can't do?
Okay, well, I will say that, women who can code are more likely to be liked. I would just say that it's a big deal. If you're a woman who can code, it's a big deal because you have a lot of things stacked up against you, and to really sit down and, sit with your laptop and dedicate yourself to doing something consistently, give it the discipline. Coding is hard. Nobody's going to lie to you. But the thing is, women can do hard things. I think that's where people, when they say coding is hard, they not run away. No, it's women can do hard things. Women can, even continue to push regardless of the barriers and the stereotypes that are there. So obviously, if you push through that, you learn to code as a woman. There are some organizations that would even want to take you in as a woman if you are a woman who you're really, really good, like you're a great software developer, you know how to code. Yeah, you can have some, because it's hard work. It's really hard work here.
All right, I'll say that when you meet a woman in tech, first of all, you're fascinated, like, wow,
True.
You're in tech, So if you're one of them, you can flaunt it today. Hashtag women in tech, hashtag techie women, hashtag women who can code. Now, don't ask me what will be my own hashtag. I will get there someday, and I will tell you what that hashtag will be. Because it's a good thing when we have more women in tech, not just Imelda, so many of them. And for those of them there, we salute you and we say, go girls, you can do it. We love you. That's the show today. Thank you so much, Imelda Alumonah, who is an identity, confidence, and feminine leadership coach, product designer, and women's empowerment advocate. You get that because of the vibe she's been given. So much power, trying to convince other women that if she can do it, definitely you can.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.